Hey guys, Jeremy here with Simpler Life. Welcome to another edition of Tool Time Tuesday. This week, I'm going to give you kind of a long-term review of the BlackFox One 2x72 belt grinder. So about 8 months ago, I did kind of a quick introduction video about this grinder. And first thing first, right off the bat, I was given this for free. However, I'm not endorsed or sponsored or paid to say anything about this. In fact, our entire agreement was in the Instagram messages. So Thaddeus Hicks is a gentleman who started this company. He's actually a food processing equipment engineer. And he kind of applied what he knows in that trade, that type of mechanical engineering, to building his own 2x72 grinder. He's obviously a knife enthusiast. He makes his own knives, and he thought, you know what can I do to improve upon the 2x72 grinder? And so there's a couple things. We're gonna kind of walk through the things that make this grinder unique. Obviously, there's a lot of 2x72 grinders on the market out there, and when you're going to buy one, I mean, I can kind of see the more choices, the better it is for you and me, but also kind of the more homework you have to do and the more you're wondering, which one do I get? My previous experience was with the KMG, the original one, this one here, and I've actually heavily modified this grinder. Originally it came with a shaft drive. I made it a direct drive off the motor. I put a VFD on it, didn't come with a VFD. A good grinder, but certain limitations. So real quickly, let's kind of take just a broad look. We've got a direct drive system. So when he had started designing this, his whole concept was to kind of base everything off one datum point, which is a great idea. You know, when you get to a job site, and it's less common now, but say if you go to a job site and you've got a bunch of different trades and they all have to work within the same building, you don't want some people measuring off the ceiling grid, some people measuring off the floor, some people, you need to have one common benchmark. And that's where that term benchmark is. It's like, okay, for this job site, this will be the benchmark. Everything is based off the benchmark. That's exactly what he did with this grinder. So he took one reference point and built everything out from there. I don't know what it is. We didn't discuss that. I actually interviewed Thaddeus Hicks on my podcast. I'll put a link to that show. Quite an interesting discussion. He's an interesting gentleman, and can kind of talk more about this if you'd like to listen to that. But real quickly, so we've got this one main frame, and this is like 1/2-inch steel plate. It's got some real heavy duty powder coating on it. This is a 2-bar design. So essentially we've got the one main bar for whatever you're using, whether that be a flat platen or a contact wheel, a small wheel holder, whatever you choose. And then this here is for the work rest. Now the basic premise behind this I really like, and I'm going to show you real quickly how this kind of goes. So you've got this here, pop this on. All of these shocks are gas shocks, which is nice. I'm actually having issues with my KMG. That spring sometimes will pop out as it's getting worn, so I'm actually gonna have to make a new part for that. But everything here is gas shocks. We've got a gas shock on this lever, and what this lever does is it tilts to bring it horizontal. Really, really nice. But real quickly, we've got our platen in there, and then this is his work rest. Kind of odd shape to it, but that's obviously for when we go to horizontal mode, which I'll show you just in a moment. And there we go. Now the material that he's used for this is actually called Delrin, and it's a type of a plastic, and what I wasn't entirely sure about was how well it would wear. And I've used this for a lot of metal grinding, and you can definitely see it's scratched up in there, but it is still flat and true, and I'm actually amazed at how well this has worn. You know, obviously with, you know, metal abrasion coming off of here, and then you're grinding your knife, and especially if you're using jigs, you're sliding it across. It's actually held out really well. Definitely looks scratched, but it has no performance flaws whatsoever. It's still working really well. And then when we want to switch over to the horizontal, what we can do is pull out this work rest, slide it in like this, and then now it becomes a lot more clear what this interesting shape is for. You can see we got this profile matched around there, and now we can flip it like this. Really nice flat part to work off of. And then we've also got these corners, which I use all the time, especially when I'm fitting up the scales to the tang of the knife. Really nice to come in here. And then some of you may have seen I think it was my last video where I did this dust collector modification. And this is really handy for this system, so I can set this right here. Boom, I've got my dust collection. Also, if I go in the vertical mode, dust collection works like that. Really slick as a whistle. And I'm a big fan of this grinder. One thing that's really nice about this grinder is it's got a very small footprint. You can see this little base here. Let me get out tape. So we are 12.5 inches by 11 inches. And that's the outside to the outside. One genius thing that he's done here is he's actually mounted the VFD inside the base. So right inside of here, you've got your VFD, reverse, and your on-off switch. So really nice compact base, and it's got everything. You know, you look at kind of where this is sitting on this bench. When I articulate this to go horizontal, it stays in that same tight little area. So if you've got a smaller shop, you don't have a lot of room to work, say if you're trying to share your garage with a car, tools like this that are space conscious are very important. And he's just done an amazing job with this grinder. So easy, very positive locking, and I'm really happy with it. And again, the VFD in the base, that is just completely brilliant. Nice to be able to access controls, you know, from a safety standpoint. If something happens, boom, you can turn it off. Also, this thing has very quick braking when you're at the lower RPMs. Like, that's pretty quick. It's really nice. You want to change belts, do whatever, you're done grinding, boom, boom, done. Now, if we go up to higher RPMs, it doesn't shut down quite as quickly. But it's still pretty darn fast. That is quick. So again, we've got this spring tension here for our tracking arm. We've got like the standard tracking wheel. So we've got this rubber knob here. So far, all of the rubber on these knobs is holding up really well, even if I'm grinding with wet hands. You know, sometimes your hands get dirty and they're filthy and you're just... Right now, I've been doing a lot of wood on this, so you can see there's a lot of dust on here. But I have been using this grinder pretty much daily during the work week, and I have had zero issues with it whatsoever. Also at the back here, kind of hard to see tucked away there, but there's a gas shock, and that just keeps positive pressure, and it kind of aids you so that when you go to rotate it, you don't have the whole weight of this motor just getting away on you real quick. You see, it's actually quite nice. It actually helps push it into position, and fairly nicely balanced. Actually, very nicely balanced. Really, it's not a lot of effort, and I'm not worried about this thing getting away on me. And then also, this arm in here, if you're using it in this configuration quite a bit, you can actually mount it right here so that you can lock whatever tooling you are and not have to be reaching under like this. I haven't had any issues with it, but really slick little unit. There's one other thing I really want to show you that is really cool with his design. So this was kind of interesting, and I didn't know why this was done this way, but you see we've got our flat platen here, and instead of it just being bolted right to these angle pieces, which most grinders are, there's actually some nuts in there. It's kind of stood off a little bit, and you can adjust this in and out. And I always thought, why is that? I wonder why he does that. Still perfectly parallel and square, like there's no issues with this plate being sideways or anything like that, but I was like, wonder what that's for. Also, quick little mention, he has this tapped here, so you could add a shelf if you wanted to put a glass platen on there. I am gonna end up doing that. I'm not sure if you can see it in the light, but there is a little groove, a little wear right there from where I grind bevels. But so far this thing has held up really well. But let me show you what this little thingy's for. This little relief. If you guys have watched this channel much in the past, you probably know that I'm a fan of these file guides. Essentially what this file guide is, this one here is one by Bill Banky. It's a piece of hard carbide on, this one here is stainless steel bars. And essentially these carbides are the exact same plane, so that on both sides when you're doing your plunge line, this is a knife I just have rough ground, but basically you can use this and kind of bring your belt up to it, and that way you don't ever overshoot. Well, what this here is for is so you have clearance when you come to grind this side. So this side's obviously easy on any type of grinder, boom, we've got room there. But when you get to this side, these bolts stick out, and this is where your angle is. Well, check that out. I've got clearance in there. Now this one's the KMG, and you see I'm hitting there. I'm kind of limited to where I can work. Certain knives, depending on how you like to pull them, they can be kind of in the way. Not so on the BlackFox. That is absolutely brilliant. I was always like, I wonder why. I wonder why he does that. And then it wasn't until on the podcast that I was talking with him that he explained to me it's so you have clearance for when you got a file guide on. One other thing he sent me that I actually haven't used, but I really like the idea, is a disc grinder attachment that's powered by your belts. So I noticed with this one I have to jack the tracking a little bit out to there, pull her tight, lock her down, and just like that I've got a disc grinding attachment for my grinder. And the cool thing about this is that I can use it this way, you know, vertically with this thing straight up and down, or again I can flip it horizontally and use it like this. Disc grinders are a tool that I absolutely love, but the reason I haven't used this one here is because I've got a dedicated disc grinder. I don't actually like to grind like this. Some people would probably like to do this, you know, for flattening handle skills or something like that. And then also the nice thing with this, I can bring this right up into here if I need to, make sure we get all of our dust collection in order, and go down like this, bada boom, bada bing. So there you have it. Nice little disc grinder. Thinking about space saving. If you don't have a lot of room in your garage, ideas like this and this type of thinking can really allow you to have more tools in a smaller space. And that was one of the big concerns he had with this. You know, he thought, I don't have a massive garage, I've got limited space. And so when he set out to build this grinder, he set out to make a 2x72 that was still compact and was a very efficient use of space. And you can just look at it and tell right away this definitely is the case. He has also some extra options here, auxiliary switches you could put in, and then even at the back he's got some ports that are just sealed off where, you know, you can kind of interchange this. So if you wanted to add a light, you could actually add one of these switches and a light, bring the power for the light out through here, you could tie into the power that's already in here. So I really like that ability that you could actually customize this with whatever lights, you know, anything that you kind of have in mind that you'd like to set up and have working on here. And again, so far, 8 months using this all the time, I haven't had any issues. He also has a surface grinding attachment that I'm seriously considering purchasing. I think that might be my next big purchase, is a surface grinding attachment. Small wheel attachments, he's got that. He's got ones for grinding bolsters. So, you know, you're kind of grinding in the blade, and then the flat part, basically the platen goes to a small wheel holder for doing fullers or for those integral bolster knives, all kinds of stuff. And Thaddeus is always kind of pushing the envelope, coming up with new ideas and new concepts. Really an innovator in this field. And again, you know, the more people we have making grinders, the better it is for all of us. He's trying to keep these things as affordable as he can, and I think there's excellent value in these. I'll put a link to his website down below, but the build and the fit and finish is absolutely top notch. Nothing's janky. I mean, you can definitely tell that if they ever manufactured a part and it wasn't right, it would just be thrown out, because everything here looks like it is top of the line, factory made, which it is. I mean, he's doing a fantastic job. He's working with a lot of different suppliers, different processing methods. And I'll put a link to his YouTube as well. He shares quite a bit of information with what he's working on, and definitely exciting to see somebody like this doing really cool things in the knife making specific area. Well, there you go, guys. If you have questions about this grinder, leave them in the description below. I will do my best to answer them for you. And I want to say thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.